My name is Mark, I'm 45 years old, and I'm married to Lois, my 42-year-old wife. My current situation involves an affair that I discovered my wife had with my best friend, Phil. I found out about it accidentally and haven't discussed it with either of them yet. Next month, we'll celebrate 25 years of marriage, and our children, Jeff, 23, and Jill, 21, are already adults, so they won't heavily influence my decisions. Jeff recently got married, and Jill is engaged. Before delving into the details, let me tell you about my wife. She's beautiful, standing at 170 centimeters tall and weighing 140 pounds, with a mature, slender figure that, like her friends, is starting to change over time. This is particularly noticeable in the case of her friend Penny, Phil's wife. Phil had always had a wandering eye, but in recent years, as Penny began to gain weight, I noticed that he became even more prone to it. However, I never imagined he would pursue Lois, although I should have suspected that her appearance might attract him. I was curious why she responded to his advances. Like many women who face harassment when they start to acquire other feminine qualities, she endured unwanted attention, inappropriate comments, and propositions during our marriage. However, to my knowledge, she did not give in, remaining faithful to our wedding vows. So what happened to make her break them? Did she stop respecting me? Was she in love with Phil? Did she desire a divorce? Did Phil want to divorce Penny? How long had this been going on? Only she could answer these questions. They were for her. And as for me? What questions did I need to find answers to? Did I love Lois? I thought I did. How would I feel if she left me? Would I be devastated, or would it not matter to me whether we stayed together? Could I trust her again? But the most important question, what did I feel? Was I angry, or simply disappointed by her betrayal? It was all so confusing. Most cheating wife stories I'd read indicated that the husband was always devastated and drank a bottle to forget. I didn't think that appealed to me. 25 years is about a third of a lifetime, and that's a pretty heavy investment of one's life to give up without some concern. I guess I would have to confront her and get some of those questions answered that only she could provide, then I would go from there to determine the best course of action. I had been on a 4-day business trip and had finished up a day early and headed home, catching an evening flight that would get me home late. Lois didn't like me to travel with the kids gone. She was alone in the house, and I thought she would appreciate my early return. I decided to surprise her and not notify her in advance. Maybe I should have. Arriving home at 10 o'clock in my truck that I'd left at the airport, I didn't open the garage door, deciding instead that it would scare her as she was probably in bed sleeping or reading. I could see that there was a light on in the living room and our bedroom as I drove up. I slipped in the front door with my luggage and dropped it in the front entryway, thinking I'd take care of it in the morning. Looking in the living room, I saw 2 empty wine glasses on the coffee table. I stopped in the kitchen for a glass of water, then went upstairs to our bedroom. I saw a light coming from the partly open door to our bedroom and heard the sound of voices. What I thought, is she watching a movie? But that sounds like her voice. I looked around the corner into the room and saw my best friend Phil's and my wife's laid in bed. I stood there quietly, shocked by what I was looking at. They were so involved in their playing that they didn't notice me watching from the doorway. Wakening from my stupor, I thought about rushing and confronting them in anger, but reason returned, and I turned instead and went downstairs and returned with my new digital video camera. Setting it on low, I stood back in the dark hallway and began videoing their activities in the dimly lit bedroom for about 15 minutes. When I was satisfied that I had enough, I took the camera down to the computer room and downloaded it into a secure file. Then I burned 2 discs and hid them in separate places. Going back upstairs, I heard him ask, "Can we do this again? I've wanted to make love to you for a long time, and I don't think I can stop now." "I don't think so. He'll be home tomorrow. I want you to understand that, as far as I'm concerned, we weren't making love. We were just playing. I only make love with Mark. He and I are scheduled to play golf on Saturday morning. If I played sick and got a sub, would you do it then? What about Penny? She'll be still at her mother's. Maybe I'll let you know. I went and took my luggage from the entryway and moved it out to the garage, hiding it behind some cabinets. Then I changed into the old fishing clothes I kept there and slipped out the side door of the garage to my truck. Starting it, I turned it around and backed up to my fishing boat next to the garage and moved off toward the lake, 3 miles distant. I slept in the truck that night at the launch ramp, waking at first light. I launched and went fishing. I was still shocked from what I'd seen, but it hadn't sorted out my feelings yet. As the sun gained precedence in the sky, I pulled the boat up on its trailer and departed the lake for home. After parking the boat and trailer by the garage again, I went into the garage through the side door again and was surprised to see Lois' car still sitting there. She was usually at work by this time. I changed clothes and then went into the kitchen. She was sitting at the kitchen table, looking at me without expression. It looked like she'd been crying. I went in and sat down opposite her. I thought something was funny when I saw the empty glass on the countertop in the kitchen. When I saw your boat gone, I knew why. I asked without other preliminaries. She suddenly began to sob. I don't know. Do you love him? I love you and want you to be happy. So if you love him, I'll give you a divorce and let you go. However, I will not be while you have an affair with him. No, no, no. I don't love him. It was just sex. I love you. Do you want a divorce? Oh God, no, again. Why, then? I was getting mad, a rage was building up in me for the first time. I was beginning to feel some emotion about her infidelity, and it scared me. I don't know. I wanted something, but I don't know what it might be. That I'm getting older and I don't feel that I'm attractive anymore? You're very attractive to me. Doesn't that count? Don't our wedding vows count? Oh God, please. I'm feeling so bad about it. I don't want to lose you. How long has it been going on? That was the first time she sobbed out. How do I know that? How can I trust you again? I'll never do that again. Was that only because I caught you? No, I'd already decided it was a one-time thing. Weren't you thinking about doing it again with him this morning? You heard that? Yes, and I heard you begging him to duck you. So again, how do I trust you if we stay together? I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being your jailer by having sex outside our marriage. You broke our wedding vows to forsake all others, and you showed a total lack of respect for me. Now I have lost my respect for you and my trust in you. How do we overcome that if we stay together? I don't know what to say. Can I say that you have to trust me, that you can trust me? That really sounds crazy. You're right. I did show disrespect for you by doing it with him. And please don't talk about not being together. Let's try it this way. What would you do if I had cheated on you? Think about it before replying. After a few minutes, she exclaimed, would have asked you to leave our home and would have gotten a lawyer. But I don't want you to do that with me. I'm so confused. She went back to sobbing, and I constrained myself from going over to comfort her. My rage began to abate. I decided then that I sincerely cared for her and hoped we could work through this and get back together. The question was, did I love her enough to forgive her? She was the mother of our children, and we had lived together for a long time and knew one another intimately. Could I get past this and resume our relationship, no matter how flawed? She was a good-looking woman and had always turned me on. I would miss her if I left, and I knew she would find someone else soon. However, I felt we needed some breathing room. Lois, I think we should separate for a while until you can figure out what you want and you're no longer confused. I'm going to pack a few things and go live in a motel until you make up your mind about what you want to do. Also, I think you should know that if we do get back together, I will never again sleep in the bed you cheated on me in. Oh no, Mark, don't leave. I'll get rid of the bed immediately and have a new one delivered this afternoon. I'm sorry, but I see this as a period of adjustment in our marriage. Please give it a lot of thought and call me on my cell phone when you're ready to discuss what we're going to do. You should be aware that as soon as Penny gets home, I'll be informing her about what you and Phil have done. I don't think she should be kept in the dark on this, and I don't think Phil should get away with it. He's no longer my friend, and as long as we're married, he'll never set foot in this house again. I got up and went out to the garage and got my luggage and took it upstairs to repack. Within a few minutes, I came back downstairs and headed for the door. Please, Mark, what will I tell the kids? That's up to you, but don't place the blame for this on me. I don't think we should let this go too long. I think you should call within a week. She was still sobbing as I closed the door and headed to my truck. In about 20 minutes, I had a room at the Holiday Inn near the interstate. It was only noon, so I went into the restaurant and had lunch, then headed to my office. They were surprised to see me back early, but I buried myself in work to help forget my personal problems. I called my golf partners, except Phil, and canceled my Saturday morning date with them. Also, I told them that I probably would not be playing with them for the foreseeable future. They wanted to know why, and I just told them there were some personal problems that had to be worked out. 2 days after I moved into the motel, I received a call on my cell phone at work from my son Jeff. Dad, what's going on? Mom says you've moved out of the house, and she's almost a basket case. She hasn't been to work in the last 2 days. Did she tell you why? She says she did something wrong. Can you tell me what she did? You'll have to get that from her, Jeff. But I can tell you, if it doesn't get resolved in the next few days, your mother and I might be heading for a divorce. Oh, Dad, I hope it doesn't come to that. I'll talk to Jill and see if we can't work with you both on this. Okay, son. Bye-bye, Dad. Saturday morning while I was having breakfast at Denny's, I received a call from my daughter Jill on my cell phone. Dad, can you meet with Mom this afternoon? She told us what she did, and we're really mad at her, but I don't think what she did is bad enough for a divorce. Jill, I agree with you and Jeff that a one-time slip is not enough for a divorce, but I want assurances that it will never happen again. I want her to tell me how she can restore my trust and respect for her. My guts are in turmoil over this. I feel betrayed and disrespected. I hear you, Dad. We'll pass on your words to her. Do you think you could talk with her today? This afternoon at 2 o'clock would be fine. Good. We won't be there. It'll just be the two of you. By the way, I think you should know she's had your whole bedroom suite replaced, the walls repainted, and new carpet installed. She's really sorry, and I don't think what she did will ever happen again. Okay, honey. Thanks for your and Jeff's help in this. We're family, Dad, and we want to stay a family. I was so proud of our kids. 2 o'clock, and I was ringing the front doorbell. You didn't have to ring, Mark, this is your home too, she told me as I entered. Lois, until this is resolved, I'm not living here. All right, I understand. Where do you want to talk? The living room will be fine, I responded. I wanted to keep this as formal as possible so it wouldn't degenerate into a crying jag for her and myself. Giving in to compassion for her, I sat down in a chair, and she sat on the sofa facing me. She looked drawn and lifeless, and I was secretly glad that she was suffering about this. Where do you want me to start? I guess you can start by telling me how you and Phil got together. Well, you were gone, and Penny was gone to visit her mother. I'd met Phil at the grocery store, and then he was bemoaning the fact that he was having to cook for himself or go out to restaurants, and he would love a home-cooked meal. I think back now that he was just fishing for an invitation. Anyway, I bit on his hook and invited him over for dinner. I don't like to just cook for myself, and I don't like to eat alone. It just made sense that we solve our problems together. I didn't even think about the impropriety of it at all. He and Penny are such good friends. I just thought about him as I do about my brother. Before dinner, we had cocktails, and during dinner, we had wine. We were having such a good time talking that I didn't notice that we'd almost consumed the whole bottle of wine. I think he was keeping my glass full the whole time. We sat there after dinner, he helped clean up the kitchen and the dirty dishes, and then we went into the family room. He sat next to me on the couch, and we had some more wine. I was really out of it from the alcohol. I remember he put his arm around me, and when I turned to him to tell him no, he kissed me. It was like I found myself responding. That eventually led to the bedroom, and I guess that's where you found us. I just never thought about you or our family. I am so sorry it happened, but I can't turn back the clock. I don't want to lose you. I love you and I need you with me. I have tried to analyze why I so easily succumbed to him, and maybe it was the alcohol. I don't know, but I'm willing to see a psychologist or marriage counselor about it if it will get you back home. I don't know whether I could handle you having a revenge affair with some other woman, but if you insisted, I'd go along with it if it would help you trust me again. I was so glad she was looking at what she'd done more analytically than emotionally. It was a good sign. Okay, based on what you've told me, this episode with Phil was just a one-time thing. There have been no other men in your life since we married, is that right? Yes, no one but you, please believe me, she sobbed. Alright, but I hope I never discover otherwise. I will move back home this evening, and we can try to re-establish our marriage. You realize that it will not be easy. I have the memory of seeing you with another man in our bed and your words burned into my brain, and it's going to take time to erase that memory. I will be staying in the spare room until I feel comfortable with you again. She looked visibly relieved as she responded, all right, I understand. I just want you back home, and we'll work this out. I moved back in that evening, and the weekend was spent in cautious attempts at reconciliation. I was pleased that she acted contrite and remorseful. Monday morning at work, I called Phil and Penny's house to see if she was back from the visit to her mother's. As I'd hoped, she was home, and Phil was at work. I wanted to meet in a public place. Penny, are you available for lunch today? I'd like to talk with you privately without our spouses around. Sure, Mark. We can meet at TGIF at noon. Is this about a surprise for them? You could say that. I'll see you at lunch at noon. I was seated in a booth in the back when Penny arrived and sat across from me. Now what's this all about, Mark? She began after we had our drinks. I started right in. While you were gone, I came home early from a business trip and found Phil and Lois in bed together. Lois and I have had a brief breakup, but now we're back together and we'll be seeing a marriage counselor. She just stared at me emotionlessly. I was surprised as I'd been prepared for some sort of outburst. Finally, she spoke. It sounded like she was forcing the words from her mouth, and I was devastated. So, Lois is the one. What do you mean, Lois is the one? I knew Phil has been cheating on me for some time, but I never knew who it was with. With your help, I'd like to start divorce proceedings against him. I was stunned. Lois had lied to me. They had been doing it more than once, and it sounded as though many times. Jumping up, I threw money on the table for the drinks and told her, I'm sorry, Penny. I've got to get back to the office and think. She told me they only did it the one time, but I'll be glad to help you with your divorce if I can. I need revenge, and I have video confirmation. Can I have a copy of that? She asked. Yes, I'll get a copy to you. When I got to my office, I sat there and thought about what I was going to do for about an hour. Then I made a decision. I needed to get away from Lois and the whole sordid situation. I couldn't look at her lying face again. I handwrote a letter of resignation, effective immediately, and left it on my boss's desk while he was in a meeting. Then I called and made an appointment with my lawyer for later that afternoon. Heading for the bank, I withdrew $10,000 in cash from half our savings and put the rest of my half into 5-year CDs in my name. I took half our checking account and then headed to our investment representative and split half our investments into my name only. I canceled all joint credit cards and then took out one in my name only. My lawyer, Bill Jackson, was surprised when I asked to have divorce proceedings initiated against Lois immediately, based on irreconcilable differences, and signed a power of attorney for Bill to handle the divorce and changed my will to leave my estate to our kids if I should die. I told Bill that if she balked at a divorce to let her know I had video evidence of her adultery that I could make public. Then I left his office, telling him I would notify him where I could be contacted when I got settled somewhere else. Back home, I packed only jeans, casual shirts, shoes, etc., gathered up my computer, the 2 DVDs showing Lois and Phil, unloaded them in my car, then I headed west. After leaving a note in my wedding ring for her, "Dear lying cheater, this is the last you will hear from me. You can continue your affair with Phil now as I'm leaving you in this town. Good, you'll be hearing from Bill Jackson shortly. All contacts between us will be through him in the future. Penny told me about your long-term affair with Phil." I dropped a copy of the video at Penny's place and then headed west. Lois would be home soon and find my note. I drove until 9 p.m. and then stopped for the night at a small motel in the next state. I was exhausted and fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. The next morning, I got up, had breakfast, and continued driving west. When I reached Denver, I sold my truck at a small private car lot and picked up another used pickup. Then I headed south toward Mexico. 2 days later, I crossed the border at Juarez and headed down to Chihuahua. Finding a small hotel there, I checked in and then laid back to rest a few days. I took most of the cash I had with me and opened a checking account at a local bank. I knew a few words of Spanish, having done business through my old company with Mexican companies, so I was able to get by as I worked at getting more proficient in the language. After a week at the motel, I located a small furnished apartment and moved in. Checking around in a few cantinas, I found an individual who could fix me up with a fake Mexican driver's license with a fake name, Carlos Martin, and I went job hunting. A small local trucking company was looking for someone who was proficient in English to work part-time, and I thought it would be a good foot in the door until something better came along. A month after leaving home, I was settled anonymously in Mexico as a resident. One day, I bought a prepaid cell phone and called Bill Jackson to give him the phone number to contact me. "Mark, where are you? You've got to get in touch with Lois as soon as possible," Bill said. "I don't even want to talk about that. If you say one more word about her, I'll hang up. Now, what about the divorce, Mark? She refuses to agree to a divorce unless you talk to her. Unless you have proof of some other grounds besides irreconcilable differences, she can drag this out forever, and it could get very expensive. Did you tell her I had video proof of her adultery?" "Yes, and I don't think she believes you. I'll send you a copy of the DVD, and you can judge for yourself. I'll call back in a couple of weeks to see where we stand." "Okay, Mark." I packaged up a copy of the DVD and gave it to one of the company drivers making a run to Denver with $50 and asked him to mail it from there. In 2 weeks, I called back to Bill. "Bill, it's Mark. Did you get the DVD?" "Yes, and after looking at it myself, I ran a copy and sent it over to Lois's lawyer. We're signing the divorce papers next week. Where do you want to send your copies? Can you hang on to them, and I'll let you know someday?" "Okay, Mark. But your kids really want to talk with you. Tell them I'll be in touch when I feel like talking with them again." 25 years of my life were over. So life went on. A year after I'd started working at the small trucking company, it had doubled in size thanks to my contacts back in the States and my business expertise, and I was working full-time. The owner of the trucking company and his wife were good friends, and I was invited over to their home for dinners and fiestas quite often. I met a few single women and had affairs with a couple of them. One, Dolores in particular, she reminded me so much of Lois that I almost cried when we were together. I would have married her, but I couldn't chance putting my fake name on legal documents like a marriage license. I think Dolores knew that I had someone else in mind because one day she commented about it. "Carlos, you have someone looking over your shoulder." "What do you mean?" "You have someone you still love with us all the time? Whatever she did to you, I think you ought to go back to her and resolve it. You know me pretty well, don't you?" "Who is she?" "My ex-wife." "What did she do?" "She had an affair with a good friend and tried to lie her way out of it. I can't forget her, and I can't forgive her." "You must still have some questions in your mind, otherwise, you'd let go of her." "Maybe you're right. I don't know. Please go back and confront her so you can let go. Would you do it for me?" "I'll think about it, Dolores." After Dolores left, I did think about it. It was close to 2 years since I'd left home, and I thought the dust may have settled a bit, and I could confront her without the rage I'd been in when I left. The next day, I asked my boss if I could take a couple of weeks off to take care of some personal business. He readily agreed, and I called Dolores to let her know I was going. "That's good, Carlos. Let me tell you that if you don't come back, I'll understand. If you do come back, I'll ask you to marry me." "That sounds like a deal, Dolores," I laughed. "Either way, I'll let you know." We parted as friends. The next day, I was in my truck heading back north. 4 days later, I pulled back into my hometown and got a room in my old name at the Holiday Inn. I called my son Jeff as soon as I was settled. "Dad, where are you? Where have you been? We've searched for you a long time. I'm at the Holiday Inn out by the interstate, and I've been living out of the country. That's why we couldn't find you. Can you come for dinner? There's so much we have to talk about. I'll let Jill know, and she and her husband will want to be here too." "Husband?" "She's married to a great guy, Dad. She's pregnant, and so is my wife. You're back in time to be a grandparent. Mom is excited too. I don't think I want to hear about your mother, Jeff. You've got to see her, Dad. I think you may have made a terrible mistake leaving 2 years ago and not letting anyone get in touch with you." "A terrible mistake? I don't think so. What your mother did is unforgivable. I just came back for final closure, then I'm leaving again, probably for good. Dad, please go and see her. She's still in your old house. She's never seen anyone else that we know of while you were gone. We kept close tabs on her." After we hung up, I sat in the motel room and thought about what I should do, and finally making up my mind, I headed for her old house. She was standing in a front window waiting for me when I pulled into the drive. I guess Jeff or Jill must have alerted her I was back in town. When I entered the house, we didn't speak as I followed her into the living room, and we sat down facing one another. She looked really good, and I recalled why I was so attracted to her. "You look well," I spoke for the first time. "Thank you. You look good too." "All right, Lois, the pleasantries are over. I want to tell you that I've thought about you often over the last 2 years and wondered how you were doing. I'm glad you didn't fight the divorce." "Divorce, Mark? We're not divorced." I was stunned. "We're still married. The last time I talked with Bill, you were on the verge of signing the papers. What happened?" "I couldn't do it. You left me with the idea that I'd had a long-term affair with Phil, and that was totally false. So I thought the only way I could get you back to tell you was by refusing to sign the divorce papers. Why didn't Bill tell me?" "I don't know. You'll have to ask him. Penny told me that you'd had a long-term affair with him. Why would she lie?" "I talked with Penny after you left and apologized for my indiscretion with Phil. At that time, I asked her why she told you it had been a long-term affair. She said that she knew Phil had been cheating on her for some time, and when you told her you had discovered us together, she assumed that he had been seeing me the whole time. I'm so sorry. In retrospect, though, I needed the time away to think about what had gone wrong in our marriage. I guess we'll never know if we could make our marriage work again if I'd stayed. But I'm back for a while anyway to see if there's closure or a new beginning. I guess, in our situation, I hadn't considered we'd still be married and planning for this trip. It adds a new factor to consider, in addition to the fact that you may not have had an affair. Do you want to get back with me? I still have feelings for you, but the old issue of trust and respect is still with me. Do you want me back? Oh, Mark, I want you back more than anything in this world. I can never say I'm sorry enough times for what I did, but it doesn't change the fact that it happened because of a moment of weakness. I know it will never happen again, but I don't know how to assure you of that. I've got to have time to think this out. Why don't we just go and have dinner with the kids tonight and enjoy our family? I don't want to give them any false hopes that we're getting back together again, but I think I'd enjoy being there with you. I understand. Our family is growing, and I'd like to see them again. Lois looked at me teary-eyed. Yes, our children are both married now, and both are looking forward to being parents soon. I'm really looking forward to meeting them. Are you ready to go now? We can go together if you like. I'd like that, she smiled. Can we plan to get together here tomorrow evening about 7 o'clock and discuss our future? I'll be home that afternoon. At Jeff's, we joined our family. I realized that much had happened in the 2 years that I was gone, but I had a wonderful time meeting my children and my new son-in-law. We were a little uncomfortable at first with one another because Lois had told them what she'd done, but as the afternoon progressed, things became more comfortable again. Jeff and Jill were especially glad that we had arrived together. To them, this meant that we may be getting back together. However, I explained to them in an aside that we had only reached a temporary compromise until we could re-establish our bonds of trust and respect for one another. I also told them that I hoped that they had taken our situation to heart as far as their own marriages were concerned. They both indicated they'd had long conversations with their spouses on the matter and had all agreed that they would never break their wedding vows after seeing our problems. Later, after dinner, I took Lois back to our old home and dropped her off. She wanted me to come in, but I begged off. I was tired from traveling and didn't want to re-establish a relationship until we could have our talk the next evening. She really looked good, and I found it hard to not hold her and kiss her, but I forced myself to hold back. Before we had our talk, I wanted to talk with Penny to confirm for myself what Lois had told me, and I needed to do a lot of thinking about how we were going to assure mutual trust and respect in any future relationship. After a restless night thinking about the matter, I got up in the morning, showered, and went to breakfast. Later in the morning, I called Penny. Lois had told me that she divorced Phil, and she was living alone in their old house, so it wasn't hard to find her. She was surprised when she found out it was me on the phone. "Mark, it's good to hear your voice again. I wished many times that I could tell you what a mistake I'd made about Lois the last time we talked." Lois told me, and I later confirmed it with Phil, that they'd only had that one time together. Phil admitted who the other woman was that he'd been seeing when he was cheating on me, so I'm extremely sorry about any misinformation I gave you based on an erroneous assumption on my part. I don't regret going off and letting time heal some wounds, Penny, so maybe it was for the best. Hopefully, we can get back together again. I'm sorry to hear about you and Phil. For just a few minutes in a meaningless liaison, so much damage has been done. Phil had done too much cheating that I couldn't forgive him anyway. I have a new love life now, and we plan to get married next month. Phil moved to California after our divorce, and I haven't heard anything from him since. Congratulations on your upcoming marriage. Hope to see you around sometime. I accepted Penny's confirmation of what Lois had told me, as I didn't think she'd have any reason to lie. So I now knew what I needed to do when I talked with Lois that evening. At 7 that evening, I was ringing the doorbell at my old home, and Lois answered right away. "Come in, Mark. I've been waiting for you. Do you want to talk in the living room?" "That would be fine," I said as I went into the living room and sat down. Shortly, she came in with the drinks and sat in a chair opposite me. I took a sip of my drink and spoke. "Lois, I want to be back with you more than anything in this world. I love you so much that I have a hard time sitting here and not taking you into my arms. However, if we don't set some new ground rules, I don't know how we can establish a relationship again based on trust and respect. I was so happy that I could confirm with Penny what you told me about it being a one-time thing with Phil. But you told me you had done it in a moment of weakness, and I've struggled to come up with a means of assuring you will never have a moment of weakness again. I don't know how I can reassure you, Mark. I can only tell you again that it was just sex, and I'll regret it to my dying day. When I think about breaking my wedding vows to the man I love, I get sick inside. I've given this much thought since I came back, and I've come up with a way to restore my trust in you again and bring mutual respect back into our marriage. It's based on a promise from me to you. A promise? Yes, a promise. I'm going to make you a promise, and then I'm asking you to think about it for 24 hours before giving me a response. Before I do that, you will have to understand that I had a loving relationship with another woman while I was gone. However, in my defense, I thought that I was divorced from you when I was with her. She knew that I still had feelings for you, and she was the one that urged me to come back here for a final confrontation with you and to end any feelings I still had for you. She didn't want to marry me with you between us. When I told Lois about Dolores, she paled visibly and listened intently until I finished. She sounds like a fine woman. It hurts me to think about you with someone else, but I guess I deserve it. Now, I need to ask you, have you had any extramarital relationships while I've been gone? Knowing that you were still married to me, I know you are a warm, passionate woman, and it's hard to imagine you were faithful to me the whole time I was gone. Mark, I have been faithful to you. I knew you'd come back to me someday, and I wanted to be able to tell you that I've never broken our wedding vows again. I'm glad to hear that, but it must have been very hard on you. She blushed as she responded. I'll tell you sometime how I was able to cope. Then here's my promise to you that you must accept and give some thought to before we can get back together. If you ever have a sexual relationship with another person while we are still married, I will kick you. I will release the rage I felt after I caught you with Phil and when I thought you'd lied to me about it. Her eyes widened, but she didn't say anything as I continued. That is my promise to you as the consequence of any infidelity. I know I will be tried and convicted of that kick, and in this state, I may receive the penalty. That will make no difference in my promise to you. I will kick you. You can imagine the impact this will have on Jeff and Jill and their families in the legacy we leave them. This promise also extends to the time I was away when you claimed you wanted to remain married to me. It may sound like an extreme punishment, but I need you to understand the possible consequences if we get back together. I'm going to leave now, and we'll get back together here tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, and you can give me your answer. If you respect me at all, you know I will keep that promise. She had sat there stunned as I stood. We didn't speak as I left. The next evening at 7 o'clock, I rang the doorbell again, and she promptly answered it as before. Her face was expressionless as she asked me in, and I followed her into the living room and sat down facing her. Lois, I spoke, and now it's your turn. Mark, she said, you really scared me last night. I have no doubt in my mind you would do as you said. I have given it some thought, and I either believe everything I told you about my past and future faithfulness, or it's all a lie. I love you so very much and want you back, even with the full understanding of what your promise means if I am unfaithful to you. I trust and respect you as my husband and will be faithful to you as long as we're together. I only ask that if you have any doubts about me, that you talk with me before you do anything. I breathed a big sigh of relief and went over and got on my knees in front of her. Thank you, my darling. I'll move back home tomorrow. From that day on, I never doubted her again. We renewed our wedding vows before God and our family, and to this day, I have never been happier. She wanted to do so many things for me as atonement, but I told her it wasn't necessary. The only part one feels sorry for is calling Dolores and telling her I wouldn't be coming back. I knew she was disappointed, but she understood. This story is an engaging journey through complex emotions and challenges that the characters face in their relationships. It explores the themes of betrayal, forgiveness, and rebuilding trust with unique depth and sensitivity. Story 2. Her name was Janice, and I thought I was in love with her almost from the time I'd met her 2 years before. From our first date onward, I felt she was the one I wanted to grow old with. Looking back now, I guess it was just lust that held our relationship together, combined with her devil-may-care sort of wild attitude she had that I found captivating. I'd been brought up in a fairly conservative home, and she was like a bright light while I was the moth. We'd met in college and had moved in together in our senior year. I loved everything about her, including her sense of humor, her intellect, and most importantly, her love of uninhibited sex. She was a very sexual person, and she just exuded that feeling any time a male looked at her. I think she reveled in the attention she got from guys and tended to promote it by wearing clothes that were a little short or snug-fitting to amplify the many charms of her body. No matter, I thought. She is mine and no other guy's. After living together for a year, I felt I knew her well enough to be sure of my feelings, and I thought she loved me. So, I popped the question. She enthusiastically responded with a yes. I knew that if I asked in a public place, she might respond a little more aggressively than my conservative upbringing could support. I was glad I asked her in our room. She was so happy. We decided to schedule the wedding for June, right after we graduated, so we could coordinate our job searches as a married couple, and it wouldn't interfere with finals and other graduation activities. At her suggestion, we decided to write our own wedding vows. I wasn't crazy about the idea because I thought the traditional vows that had joined my parents together were good enough for me, but I acquiesced to keep her happy. We would be married in my parents' church, which made my mother and father happy because she didn't belong to any organized religion. I should note that while we were dating, I'd met her parents, and they were a different set of couples than the parents that had raised me. They were both a couple of aging hippies to me and seemed dedicated to a lifestyle that was avant-garde to the extreme, including an open marriage. I was to discover later. I wondered why Janice wasn't as far out as they were, but after meeting her grandparents, I could understand where some of her normal behavior came from. I guess they'd raised her while her parents did their thing. Anyway, we were a week away from the wedding, and Janice and her mother were rushing around doing those things a bride and her mother are supposed to be doing, and I was sitting down having a beer with her dad at his home. Actually, it was the first beer and conversation I'd ever had with her dad, and he really wasn't drinking beer, his was white wine. I'd gone over to Janice's parents' house to pick her up. She lived with me in my apartment, but her mother had picked her up to go shopping, and then she said they would be coming back here. The ladies weren't back yet, and her dad invited me in to wait for them. I thought it might be a good chance to get to know her dad, so I went in. We were definitely from opposite poles, and I struggled to find some subject of conversation that would elicit a meaningful interchange between us. He saved me by asking, "So, the big day is a week away. Are you getting nervous?" "Yes, sir, I think I am. It's a big thing in a man's life. If it gives you any consolation, so was I. But you should know that all grooms are the same way. Standing up in front of your friends, relatives, future in-laws, and her family and vowing to love one another forever can be intimidating. Her mother and I wrote our own vows, just like you two are doing. It was very romantic, and we've never regretted it." "That sounds encouraging. How many years has it been?" "Janice's mother and I have been married 24 years. It's hard to believe, but next year will be our silver anniversary." "That sounds wonderful. You must really get on well together." "We do, and I owe it all to the understanding we had the day we were married." "What was that?" "To love one another, don't keep secrets from one another, be tolerant of one another, always be there for one another, recognize her needs, and being faithful to her." "That sounds simple. We expressed it in our wedding vows and have stuck to it all these years." I thought for a moment about what he'd said. It was hard to reconcile their lifestyle to such a conventional approach to marriage. "So, that's her secret. I'll have to remember that. It's sound advice from someone who's been there. But, say, Janice will be celebrating her birthday right after you get back from your honeymoon. How about my wife and I planning a party for her? I don't think you'll have the time. Hey, that sounds good. I appreciate your consideration. No problem. Maybe her father can make it too. Her father? What is going on? I thought he was her father. I must have looked confused because he smiled and asked, "Didn't Janice tell you? I'm not her biological father. His name is Stan Burrows, and he's a salesman for Norris Business Forms. He passes through periodically and stops to say hello. You'll like him, and I'm sure he'd like to make your acquaintance since you're marrying his daughter." "Yeah, that would be great," I responded nervously. "I'm looking forward to it." Just then, Janice and her mother came laden with bags of merchandise with the logo of the local department store emblazoned on each bag. "There, Janice," exclaimed as she dumped her load on the sofa. "That will take care of gifts for the bridesmaids and a few other things," she said as she came over to sit on my lap. We kissed tenderly, and then she asked, "What have you and Daddy been doing while you were waiting?" I was telling him what every groom should know, her father volunteered. "What did you learn?" she asked with a giggle. "Not something naughty, I hope." "I learned why your mother and father have had such a loving marriage," I answered. I wanted to ask her about her biological father but decided to wait until we were alone. "Well, I guess we need to adopt the same for our marriage. I've been talking to Mom, and since they wrote their own wedding vows, we should use theirs for our wedding. Have you written anything yet?" "Well, I started, but I'm still working on them. I didn't mention that I was using an internet site to plagiarize them. What do you think about using their vows for us?" They worked for them. I was a little apprehensive, but I decided to go along with her for now until I could read what her father's vows were. The rules of marriage he expressed to me sounded good to me, so the vows he made at his wedding should be okay. But I wasn't ready to make a commitment yet. "Sure, get me a copy, and I'll look at them," I said. She hopped off my lap and ran into the bedroom where her mother had disappeared. In a few minutes, she was back with a piece of paper she thrust at me. "Here you are, go ahead and read them," she said. I glanced at the page and asked, "Where's yours?" "I have them, and you'll hear them at our wedding, sweetheart," she said. I grunted in annoyance but folded the paper and pocketed it to read later. "Are you ready to go?" I asked. "Yes, help me load this stuff in the car, and we can go." Later that evening at my apartment, I took the paper out of my pocket and read it. "I take you to be my wife, friend, and lover, to love and respect you in sickness and health, and in times of joy and sorrow, to be faithful to you and cherish you and grow old with you. In times of failure and trial, I promise to nurture our love and show tolerance and patience and to recognize your needs and desires through our life together. I also promise to nurture and support the children of this marriage until they leave us in their maturity." I thought, well, that isn't too bad. I can live with that. But I wondered about her needs and desires. It seems to be close to the traditional vows, so I decided to use it and told her so. She was ecstatic with my acquiescence and told me as she took me by the hand and led me into the bedroom. At the time, I couldn't understand why she was so happy. The day of our wedding, I was excited and apprehensive as the time approached for the ceremony. My best man and best friend Jeff helped me get ready and drove me to the church. I was close to being a basket case and was glad he was there for support. He and I had been friends since grade school, and we'd always been there for one another. I thought I could trust him with my life. The sweat was running down my back under the tuxedo jacket, and I could feel it start to go down the crack of my back just as the wedding march started, and I turned to look at my bride as she started down the aisle toward me. I think I had a smile on my face as I looked at her in her beautiful white gown on her father's arm. I couldn't see her face behind the veil, but I knew she'd be smiling too. When the pastor began the marriage service, I think I was in a fog, hardly paying any attention to what he was saying. I just had to remember my cue that we'd established the evening before at the wedding rehearsal, and I thought I'd be able to pull this off and get out of here with my bride. Then I realized that the pastor had given Janice her cue when she started to read her vows. I was still in a daze, but somehow I was paying attention to her words as she read from a small card in her hand, "Janice, take you as my lawfully wedded husband. I will love you and cherish you all our wed lives. I will be with you through all the trials and tribulations of our lives, in sickness and health, in good times and bad. And I will respect and honor you as my husband from this day forward. I will be committed to your well-being and happiness, and I will always be there for you. This I swear before Almighty God." I was puzzling over her words when the pastor was asking if anyone knew of any reason we should not be wed. Then it hit me. She had never promised to be faithful to me. Most of her words were hokey drivel that were meant to sound good but didn't promise the most important thing of all, her fidelity to me in our marriage. I suddenly felt my hand go up, whether I did it knowingly or by impulse I'll never know, but it went up. The pastor looked at me with surprise, and I couldn't see Janice's face through the veil, but she must have seen my hand go up because I heard her gasp. There was also a lot of murmuring from the church behind us. "Do you have a question or some other reason to raise your hand, son?" the pastor asked. "Yes, sir. I need to talk with Janice in private before we continue the ceremony, if that's all right." "Certainly. Come with me," he told us as I took Janice's hand and followed him. The murmurings behind us were swelling into a mild roar as we exited through a side door to the pastor's study. Opening the door, he motioned us inside and asked, "Do you want me to assist you?" "No, thanks, Padre. I just need to talk to Janice alone for a few minutes." "Take your time. I'll get your family and friends calmed down, and we will wait till you're ready before we resume the ceremony." With that, he closed the door and left us alone. I turned to Janice and reached out and lifted her veil back. "What's the matter, Jim? Why did you stop the wedding?" "Janice, I have a problem, and I need some help from you to resolve it. I may never have expressed it to you before because I thought you thought about marriage the same as I did. But there must be something wrong with my thinking. When you spoke your vows, you didn't promise to be faithful to me, and that is something that our marriage requires before I can say I do. Is there some reason you didn't have that promise in your vows? All I want is a marriage like my mom and dad had. The vows we spoke are the same vows as they had, so I thought they would work for us too. What is it about their marriage that you want? I promised to be faithful to you when I said my vows, but why can't you do the same? Was your mother always faithful to your dad?" She looked at me sadly as she responded, "She had male friends, but Daddy was happy with her occasional affairs. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you are happy. I promise to always come home to you and give you all the loving you need." "Tell me, Janice," I said, my anger starting to rise, "your father said he was not your biological father. Were you the result of one of her affairs?" She broke out crying then, and I suddenly knew it was over. I could never be her happy husband. "Janice, have you been faithful to me since we became engaged?" She looked at me with tears running down her face, ruining her mascara and makeup. "I'm sorry. I didn't think that you would mind." I was suddenly getting mad. What had started out as a quiet conversation and trying to establish a reason to continue the ceremony was turning into an episode. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and what I was hearing was totally destroying me. The woman who was to be my bride and partner for life was a crap. Who was it or who were they? It was just Jeff. He's your best friend, and I thought it would be okay to do it with him. Janice, I don't know who you are besides being a total crap. Your father must be some kind of person that gets his jollies from his wife's affairs. I'm gone, Janice. Find yourself another guy who's into perversion. That's not for me. With that, I turned and headed for the door. When I came into the pastor's study, I noted that there was a door directly to the outside next to it. Going straight out the door, I proceeded to the front of the church. As I removed my tie, Jeff had driven me in his car, and I didn't have my own car there, so I started walking. I passed the limo waiting for us and saw the driver give me a funny look and a smile as I walked past. It was a 2-mile walk to my apartment, but suddenly I felt free, and my mood lightened. I was about a 1/4 mile from my apartment when a car roared up beside me, and Jeff started to get out. As he put his foot on the ground, I gave the open car door a kick. "You crap!" I screamed at him. "Never speak to me again, never come near me, or the next time we meet, I'll put you in a hospital for a long time." I continued on to my apartment, and before changing my clothes, I started bagging up Janice's clothes and belongings and putting them outside in the hall. My cell was ringing, and I just turned it off. After changing into jeans and a t-shirt, I grabbed a beer and sat back and waited for the I knew was heading my way. Her parents tried to sue me for sticking them with the cost of the wedding and the reception, but my lawyer argued that their daughter had misrepresented herself to me, and I was perfectly within my rights to back out. The judge agreed. I never saw Jeff again after he recovered from his accident. He left town. I see Janice around occasionally, but we don't speak or acknowledge one another. I heard she'd married, and I wondered about the type of guy. I'm married to a wonderful girl, and we have 2 nice kids of our own. Of course, before we married, we had a long talk about fidelity and what we should expect from each other in our married life. So far, we're as much in love as the day we married, and I trust her totally. Life can be good. This story vividly demonstrates the difficulties of trust and honesty in relationships, emphasizing the importance of personal growth and the power of making difficult decisions after deception.